Patricia Ann Boyd was born on March 17, 1944, in Taunton, Somerset, England, into a family shaped by the realities of post-war Britain. Her father, Colin Boyd, served in the Royal Air Force, and his career required frequent relocations, giving Pattie a childhood defined by constant movement. Living in different places, sometimes overseas, taught her adaptability, independence, and quiet confidence from a very young age. These early experiences helped her develop a calm poise that later became one of her defining traits. As the eldest sibling, she naturally took on a nurturing role toward her brother and sisters, learning responsibility early in life. After her father left the RAF in 1953, the family finally settled back in England, bringing long-awaited stability. Even as her parents later separated and remarried, Pattie navigated blended family dynamics with emotional intelligence, grace, and maturity beyond her years. Discovering London and a new creative path, Pattie completed her schooling in 1961, earning respectable academic qualifications, though her heart leaned more toward creative expression than formal study. In 1962, she moved to London, arriving at the perfect moment in history. The city was alive with artistic rebellion, youth culture, and new ideas reshaping fashion, music, and identity. While working as a shampoo assistant at Elizabeth Arden's salon, her delicate beauty and natural elegance caught attention almost by chance. A magazine connection suggested she try modeling, and that simple encouragement altered her life's direction. Pattie didn't aggressively pursue fame. Instead, she stepped into it with curiosity and humility. Her look, fresh, understated, and expressive, matched the mood of a generation eager to break away from rigid traditions. London embraced her quickly, and she became part of a cultural movement that celebrated individuality, freedom, and youthful authenticity. Becoming the face of swinging London, by 1962, Pattie Boyd was rising rapidly in the fashion world, working in both London and Paris and appearing in major publications such as Vogue, Vanity Fair, and Honey. Her look represented a shift away from heavily stylized glamour towards something more natural and emotionally accessible. Collaborating with photographers like David Bailey, Terence Donovan, and Brian Duffy, she helped define the visual identity of swinging London. Alongside contemporaries like Jean Shrimpton, Pattie embodied a new kind of femininity, confident without arrogance, stylish without artifice. Her British Vogue cover solidified her status as one of the era's most recognizable faces. Designers and editors admired her ability to communicate mood and story through subtle expression. She wasn't just modeling clothes, she was reflecting a cultural transformation. Women didn't want to imitate distant icons anymore. They wanted to look like Pattie Boyd. Meeting George Harrison and a life changed forever. In early 1964, Pattie's life took a dramatic turn when she was cast as a schoolgirl extra in A Hard Day's Night, the Beatles' first feature film. It was on that set that she met George Harrison, whose quiet charm and sincerity immediately stood out. Their connection grew naturally, without spectacle, even as the world around them erupted in Beatlemania. George's life was already defined by overwhelming fame, yet Pattie saw a thoughtful, searching young man beneath it all. Their relationship quickly became public, placing her under intense scrutiny. Suddenly, she was not only a fashion icon, but also part of the most famous band in the world. Despite the pressure, Pattie carried herself with composure, becoming a symbol of 1960s style and modern womanhood. Their romance captured imaginations worldwide, blending music, fashion, and youth culture into a single, unforgettable moment in history. Marriage, fame, and quiet emotional distance. Pattie Boyd married George Harrison in January 1966 during the height of Beatlemania. To the outside world, their union appeared magical, a perfect blend of beauty, creativity, and fame. Privately, however, their marriage was shaped by challenges few could fully understand. George was deeply introspective and increasingly drawn to spirituality, meditation, and Indian philosophy. Pattie admired his search for meaning, but often felt emotionally isolated as his inner world expanded beyond their shared life. The pressures of fame, constant travel, and long separations created distance. Pattie later reflected that while George was kind and gentle, he struggled to balance intimacy with his personal quest. Their home, filled with famous friends and artistic energy, sometimes felt emotionally quiet. Though love remained, communication became difficult. Pattie stayed longer than many would have, hoping to reconnect with the man she loved, even as the gap between them slowly widened. Heartbreak, forgiveness, and personal growth. By the early 1970s, the emotional strain became impossible to ignore. Pattie has spoken honestly, without bitterness, about feeling lonely and unseen during those years. Rumors, temptations, and emotional confusion complicated an already fragile marriage. Yet even as pain surfaced, she never reduced George to his flaws. Instead, she recognized him as a human being struggling under extraordinary pressure. Their separation in 1974 and divorce in 1977 marked the end of their marriage, but not the erasure of their shared history. Pattie later said walking away was one of the hardest decisions of her life, but also necessary for survival and self-discovery. Over time, anger softened into understanding. They remained connected through mutual respect and quiet forgiveness. George's passing in 2001 deeply affected her, reminding her that first loves leave permanent imprints, regardless of how the story ends. Life beyond the spotlight and healing love. After years of emotional intensity and public attention, Pattie Boyd gradually stepped away from the spotlight, seeking balance and peace. Her later relationship with Rod Weston offered something entirely different from her earlier marriages: stability, friendship, and emotional safety. They shared decades together before marrying in 2015, a reflection of trust built slowly and deliberately. Pattie often described this chapter as one of healing, where love felt calm rather than consuming. She embraced photography, writing, and introspection, redefining herself beyond muse or celebrity partner. The distance from fame allowed her to reconnect with her own identity, independent of iconic men and public narratives. This quieter life didn't erase the past, but placed it into perspective. She learned that love doesn't always arrive with intensity. Sometimes it comes with patience, kindness, and the freedom to simply be oneself. At 81, speaking honestly about George Harrison. At 81, Pattie Boyd has finally spoken with clarity and compassion about George Harrison, offering a truth shaped by time rather than emotion. She acknowledges both the love they shared and the loneliness she endured. "I adored George," she has said, "but being married to a Beatle was not a fairy tale." Her reflections are neither accusatory nor romanticized. Instead, they honor complexity. She speaks of George as deeply spiritual, kind and searching, but also emotionally distant at times. Pattie recognizes that fame magnified every flaw and fear. She admits she tried to follow his spiritual path but often felt left behind. Yet she also credits him with expanding her understanding of life beyond material success. Their love inspired timeless music, but it also taught her about boundaries, forgiveness, and self-worth. Her honesty isn't about revising history, it's about completing it with grace, a legacy of love, truth, and quiet strength. Looking back, Pattie Boyd understands that love does not need to last forever to be meaningful. Her relationship with George Harrison shaped her emotionally, creatively, and spiritually. She does not deny the pain, but she refuses to let it overshadow the beauty of what they shared. At 81, her voice carries wisdom rather than regret. She sees George not as a legend frozen in time, but as a flawed, searching man who left a lasting imprint on her soul. Through forgiveness, reflection, and self-discovery, Pattie reclaimed her own narrative. Her story reminds us that behind every cultural icon is a deeply human relationship, filled with contradictions, growth, and transformation. By finally telling her truth, Pattie Boyd offers something rare: an honest, compassionate account of love lived under extraordinary circumstances, and a reminder that personal peace often comes not from forgetting the past, but from understanding it fully.